What is up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Super excited. Carrie, you're in here. Welcome, James. I've had my repeat offenders these past few days coming in here on these live streams. If you can tell, my background's a little bit different. I even have a little fancy water cooler over here. I'm not at my location, which is typically Northern Virginia, in my house because I am live on location. Not really on location, kind of like 10 minutes away from location of RSAC 2022. And I'm so excited because I have got a dear friend with me. But very quick, if you're here and this is your first time seeing this, welcome. I am Jax Scott. I am your host of Outpost Gray, a cybersecurity innovation and technology YouTube channel that is in partnership or in collaboration with Grant Thornton Public Sector. And just letting you know, all of the amazing stories you hear and the thoughts and opinions here are of my unique thoughts and opinions and not Grant Thornton Public Sector. So we're going to dive into this interview with a dear friend of mine, Ron Woerner, who is the CEO of Cyber AAA. And we're going to talk about his background. If you don't know Ron, you're going to know him. And I would highly encourage you to go and follow him on LinkedIn. So without further ado, let's get him on. Yeah, doesn't it feel like, ooh, it's yes, like
teleporting in.
So awesome. I mean, it is 8:47. I think this is one of the very few live streams that we've actually sort of made it on time. So
awesome.
He was early as well. And really, they're always my fault why we go late. So, because there's a lot of behind the scenes. You guys don't see that. We're on like this little table right here to find a plug-in, and we were sitting over there, and we had to move like 4 times this morning in the hotel. But anyway, it's not all about that. It's about you today.
Well, thank you.
I'm so excited that we were able to connect. You're a huge influence in my life, a big mentor. We met in 2020 VetSecCon.
Yes.
And that was one of my first, actually put myself out there speaking engagements. And I was doing a soft skills, which we're going to talk a little bit about soft skills today. And then you reached out to me to provide a VetSec. This is for you, Tom. You can't really see it, but there you go, VetSec. But you reached out to me to provide me feedback out of the blue. You're an extremely busy person. You didn't have to do that. So thank you, Ron.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
It's all about how do we build our next generation.
100%.
And I just love your energy, your enthusiasm, your style, and how you make all of this fun. Because let's be honest, Jack, sometimes cybersecurity can be a little boring.
Yeah, day in and day out, same thing it feels like.
Right, yes, exactly.
So before we dive in, I want to share a little bit about your background, high level, because you were military intel, and now you've moved into the cybersecurity space, hacker, you have a lot of wealth and knowledge. So share a little bit about that.
Certainly. Well, started out as an intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force. They paid for my education. So undergrad at Michigan State, go green, and then graduate at Syracuse University. Got out of the military. That's how I got to Nebraska. And everyone's like, what the heck in Nebraska? It's actually right. It's called Silicon Prairie. A lot of people aren't familiar with it. We're right on the backbone of the internet. I worked as a defense contractor for a while, started building cybersecurity programs for large businesses like Mutual of Omaha, TD Ameritrade, ConAgra Foods. I also got into teaching, built a cybersecurity studies program, which is one of the biggest in the world now. And then along the lines, I started consulting and got to start speaking here at RSA in 2005. And doing it pretty regularly ever since.
Yeah, he's, like I said, if you don't know Ron, you definitely need to know Ron. He has got his hands in it. You've got your hands in so many different things. One of the things that we were chatting about prior to going live is just the overall challenges that we see in the cybersecurity space. I mean, just with, we'll talk about emerging technologies that we see coming out, which is impacting the threatscape. And something you and I talked about, and it was actually an RSA talk that I submitted that didn't get picked up, and that's okay, was about the cat and mouse game. And it's something that you're really passionate about, and you work in this space. And it almost feels like we keep educating our community on the same things, the same risk. What are your thoughts on that? Why does this keep happening? Do you think it's ever going to go away, where we're going to finally figure out MFA?
Those who don't study history are condemned to repeat it. So many, they ask people, when they ask, what do you do? I say cybersecurity. Oh my gosh, that's all so new. No, not really. We have a phrase called Cybersecurity Groundhog Day. We actually did it as a panel here at RSA like a dozen years ago. Others say the same thing. We're primarily living the same day over and over again, because if you look at a lot of the basics of cybersecurity, good inventory, identity management, logging,
patch management.
Exactly. None of that is really new.
No.
But we throw new words around it, like cloud. I mean, zero trust is a mechanism towards security to reduce the effects of borders. We no longer have borders around our network. So it's Cybersecurity Groundhog Day, reliving. Another thought I had is we are in the midst of cyber war. One of the themes I heard from this RSA conference was exactly that, influence through social media. People are being negatively influenced through social media. How do we combat that? And a lot of it is because of the war over in Europe, but really isn't new. So we just need to learn and take what we've learned before and begin just applying it.
Yeah, the techniques that we're seeing aren't novel. They're just getting reinvented. The adversaries are very creative within their approach. And us as the professionals, the defenders, we have got to come together and continue to be more creative. But at RSA, if you've been to the vendor hall, it is overwhelming. I went there, I think it was Tuesday. I had an on-site meeting at the vendor hall. I never went back. It was way too much for my anxiety.
Yes.
There's so many technologies and softwares and different types of toolings that are coming out. And it's overwhelming, even for me. And I live in this space. Do you think that's one of the challenges that we're seeing for these organizations to know, how do I secure myself? There's so much noise.
Right. I was in a session yesterday about the NIST cybersecurity framework. And one of the comments was that how do we simplify security? Complexity is an enemy of security. I've seen so many companies buy shelfware. They get talked into buying a product, but they don't know how to configure it, how to architect it. So it's like any other type of a building, you need an architect. How many IT infrastructure do we see where it's like a Frankenstein? They take parts and pieces from all over the place. A buddy of mine that works for a very large, well-known health organization in Omaha, I won't say which, but he said, I'm not buying anything new this year, Ron. Until we figure out what we have, how do we better use what's in our stable, we're going to take a time out. Why spend money if we don't really need it? I thought that was a very wise approach. The key with the vendors, keep asking questions. Some know how to talk like politicians. They will try to tell you what you think you need to hear. I had one come up to me once who said, Ron, we have the solutions to all your problems.
Oh, yeah, right then you just have to be like very leery.
We take security very seriously. You have to do it like this, very serious. And then it's like, yeah, if you say it like that, no.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just asking a lot of questions, due diligence, using reports, say from Gartner or Forrester. You know, listen to what the experts, join the community.
Research, educate yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask your friends what products they use. And how they use it.
And how it's been beneficial. So you're the CEO of Cyber AAA. Can you talk a little bit about what you do at your organization?
Sure.
Your company?
Well, providing awareness, assessments, and advising. There's a really good book about how to be a good consultant, not dealing with cyber, but just in general, called The Trusted Advisor by David Maister. Because that's often a challenge. And I did this even before I started consulting, because a challenge we have in security is many lack those interpersonal skills. How do we influence others to take the right steps? I was part of a study sponsored by Oracle, published in The Economist a few years ago, where we interviewed numerous CISOs. I have data now to back that up. Their biggest challenges: prioritizing risk, and then influencing decision-making from those who, so we almost need a little bit of sales and marketing approach in what we do as cybersecurity people. And that's what you are awesome about. You have a great brand, you sell yourself, you're passionate and energetic about it. So people listen and say, I want some of that. So, and that's the attitude we need in cybersecurity, rather than just being the Department of No. Can we do that?
Or
no.
Fear-based.
Yes. No more FUD. Yes.
Yeah. No more FUD. I love that. Oh my gosh. So let's go back to influence, because it's
Mhm.
actually something in graduate school. It was, and I can't remember what the paper was about, but I remember that it was about implementing a change program within an organization. I was a CISO role, and what I was needing is to develop a new cybersecurity risk management within the organization.
Wow.
And throughout my research, one of the things that I naturally started to notice was one of the key things was you need to get the leadership on board. But even more than that, you've got to get the leadership to be able to leverage their influence. First off, they have to have influence. A lot of times executives don't have influence with their people. But then if they do, it's having them leverage their influence. So let's talk about what is influence and understanding, because there's difference between just being in an executive role and being like, you can be a leader, but maybe you don't have influence and impact. But without that influence, then the people underneath you are not going to follow the lead, which we need. So let's talk, what is influence? How does that impact an organization?
Well, I'm going to go back in time, kind of a Groundhog Day moment. Practical Unix and Internet Security. Everyone should read it. Garfinkel Spafford. Dr. Eugene Spafford has a famous quote in it. It's the security administrator's first rule is that if you have responsibility for security, but you don't have the authority to enforce it, you're just there to take the blame when something goes wrong. How many of you are in that position? I've been in that position for many times in my career. So influence is just being able to enact positive change. You have to meet people where they are. So you'll hear a lot of sessions, you speak the business. How do you do that? Maybe take a business course, but just meet them for lunch. Keep information security simple. KISS, short and simple. Too often in security, we'll bombard them. Here's our list of findings, thump. And they're like, what do I do? Simplify it for them. Top 3 to 5 things right now.
I love that.
Baby steps. One of my best bosses at ConAgra showed actually like a staircase where you get so far, maybe you hit a wall, but then you kind of move to the next thing. And it's just continuous. There's something known as the Macomber philosophy. John Macomber, he's an IAC Squared fellow, where he has a Pearl Harbor file. I don't remember it exactly. Sometimes I'll write up a finding. We need to fix something. Take it to the business, and they're like, oh, yeah, thank you, Ron. Just the timing isn't right. So you take it, don't get discouraged, put it to the side. Because then what happened 6 months later, they came back to me and said, oh my gosh, Ron, we got to fix this. Do you have anything? How long will it take you? 2-3 weeks? I'm like, no, take it off, dust it off. Here you go. Day later, I'm like, yeah, we talked about this 6 months ago. We weren't ready for it yet, but here we are.
You're taking a proactive instead of a reactionary approach of what your leadership is going to need from you. And that's a great point. And that's why you're a great leader, and you're awesome at what you do, because you already see these gaps and you're already starting to fill that void that leader is going to need in the future. And it might not be even 6 months. It could be a year down the road. But eventually, to be successful, this is going to have to take place. And sometimes it's presenting it and then presenting it again and then following up and then following up and not doing it. How do you do that and not do it in a pushy way?
Right. Just little reminders is the way you do it. This is why I study social engineering and study how social engineers, influencers do it. We're just like, well, what about this? And you put it in the form of a question and you just begin to plant seeds. You plant the seed and then you occasionally water it, fertilize it quietly, not always overtly. The other trick I'll do too is getting them to tell me what we need to do. I'll phrase, hey, this is a problem. I'm trying to find good solutions. What do you think? And then they'll come back, well, have we tried this? And all of a sudden, if someone says it, actually, so Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, the Art of Persuasion, arguably the most popular cybersecurity book that has nothing to do with cybersecurity. He talks about that commitment and consistency, where if you can get someone to commit to something, they'll stay consistent with that behavior. So that's how I address risk
of it. It's having that, it's creating that ownership. And that's also within influences, especially with our younger generation, making them feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
And instilling ownership into what they're doing.
Yes.
I love that. So Kerry asked a question. He said, Ron, I'm trying to get into the technical world. I'm trying to get my hands on, and I have a project I'm doing on VirtualBox with Windows Server 2016 and networking skills. Is that a good step?
Yes. Wonderful step. Join CTFs, capture the flag, competitions and events. Great way to get more part of the community. Yeah. We often have them. You can do them virtually. You can do them part of conferences. You'll have to do a write-up with it, which then will also not only show technical skills, but again, those more soft skills. Can you communicate? Yeah. Well, if you're also looking for experience, go to a local community group, senior center, school. Ask them, hey, do you need help with your cybersecurity? I can help you if you can give me a good reference. Yeah, I love that. Or and that doesn't, it could be a reference on LinkedIn. People forget about those references on LinkedIn and or like a recommendation, or maybe even ask for an introduction. Like you build those relationships. Because I know we're coming up on time, but I want to make sure that we hit a topic that we were chatting about prior to going live. You did a talk about this in 2007 at RSAC, interpersonal skills, the soft skills. We in the cybersecurity industry, like Kerry's question was about a technical side and becoming more technical, because we see that as like the holy grail. Oh, I'm technical. I'm a red teamer. I'm a pen tester. I'm a hacker. But we have I don't think all of us have forgotten, but some of us forget that soft skills are very important in this industry. They are. So like, talk about, what are your thoughts about interpersonal skills within this space, especially within cybersecurity risk management? You need to just be able to get out of your own shell. So at the end of my session, what I did is I gave everyone a task. I said, okay, we are done now. But before you can leave, everyone needs to stand up and meet somebody new. I love that. So I actually stole this idea from Tom Peltier, who most people don't remember, but he was very much a cybersecurity pundit in the early 2000s. Before his session, he was like, I'm going to start in like 5 minutes, but before I start, you need to meet each other. Because it's very safe space. I've never seen anyone be mean or trollish live in a conference. You just go up and say, hi, I'm Ron. Yeah. And you see how not hard. Jax was smiling. I am smiling. We just, where are you from? What do you do? And it's just as simple as that. Study a little social engineering too, because John Maxwell 30-second rule, you find within the first 30 seconds, you find something to compliment. Yeah. Something you like. Yeah. I love your blouse. Your energy. Complimented your jacket right when I saw you. Naturally. So you do it. Yeah, naturally. And that builds people's ego. And when you ego build, though, and then it becomes reciprocation, Cialdini's rule, because then, you complimented me. Now I feel like I need to compliment you or do something for you. So it's just make it more organic. Don't try to plan it, but a lot of it's just do it. Go to your local security community. Like if you want to become a public speaker in the security space, join ISACA, ISC Squared, ISSA, InfraGard, and ask if you can speak. Find a quick topic. It doesn't have to be for an hour. If you only have 10 minutes, often you can ask, well, I only have 10 minutes. Can I do that? Yeah. Many will be like, oh, yes, we are looking for speakers. We want new blood. And that's what we need in the community. Please, as Jack said, follow me, because part of my passion is just to build the community. Absolutely. It's not about me. So what I want to do, Jax, my job is to work myself out of a job, knowing I never will, but I'm perfectly fine, having other people do it. It's like, I'll find something else to do. I love that. And you're big in the space of public speaking. And for anybody that's looking to break into public speaking or get more engaged, best advice, I would say, reach out to Ron. He's got like the Toastmasters. He's involved in Toastmasters. He does a few different events. I've done on TED Talk. So TED Talk Hackers Wanted. Yes, he has. And it was great. I watched it twice. So go and check that out. But if we've got a viewer in here that's like, man, I really want to break into speaking, but I don't know how to do it. What is some advice, like 1 to 2 tips that you can provide to them to get started? So reach out to your local chapters. Okay. And ask and volunteer. Find out who coordinates the speakers. Come up with a topic. With your topic, find just 3 things you want people to remember. It doesn't have to be overly complex.
Yeah.
It very well may be something someone else isn't familiar with. Those 3 takeaways. One thing I really like about the RSA conference, at the end of every session, you have to have an apply slide. How do the participants apply what you've said? So I encourage you, use that as part of your session. I'm a professor too, so I say I give homework, but make it actionable. What can people do with what you're saying? And then just do it. The audiences are very friendly. No one is going to come, unless you're overtly selling something, most everyone will be very kind and give you that opportunity to practice. Like everything else, it just takes lots of practice. Don't be fearful of practicing.
Not at all. Samir, great seeing you in there, popping in from Saudi Arabia. Love it.
Awesome.
All right. So before we wrap up, final thoughts, Ron, and how can people be able to find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter, RonW123. I have my YouTube channel where I have numerous presentations I've given over time, including how to get a job in cybersecurity, how not to suck in cybersecurity. One on influence, the evil side of influence. So yeah, you can go to my link tree actually. So it's linktr.ee cyberron.
I love it. Thank you, Ron. It was so great. I'm so glad that you were able to come over here early in the morning. He's amped up. I just got some energy off of him. So awesome. You'll be seeing him around. Make sure to hit him up. You're the best, Ron.
Likewise.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.